When I met Amma, you know, the hugging lady, who now
Yes.
sees
Oh,
100 millions of people, when I went to hug her, wow, you know, it was like looking into an ocean and understanding this warmth, this hug. It just was like melting into the ocean. For me, India was one of my, as a country, it was one of my grandmasters. And there was one friend who used to say, in India, either you go mad or you become enlightened.
according to Vedic knowledge, all of universe is inside you, and all of universe is but your mind. Most people are very anxious and sad, and the people think like it's because life happens in a way, but it's not completely true. It's also a broken schooling that leads to depression and anxiety.
So if you teach a child too early, what's going to happen is they will have their problems later on in various organs or even later on in the brain. You know, they won't have incarnated well. We say, you know, if you're willing to learn and serve Mother Earth, then the school is for you. If you're free to think outside belief systems, then the school is for you. If you're aware that there's something more than this reality, then the school is for you. We explore, we go through the 5 bodies. So we start with the
This is part of Dreamer series, where we delve into human psychology to make sense of people. Today's guest is Pushpa, the director of an eco-village called the Transmission School. She has a lot of interesting ideas about alternative ways of learning and living. Feel free to watch her story till the end. And as you do it, don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot to me. So maybe we should introduce you first, Pushpa. So who is Pushpa?
Hi. So, yeah, I'm Pushpa Kamil Kazak. I was born in England and I have half English, half French, bit of mixed bloods. My mother was also Scottish and Spanish, a bit of Lithuanian, German, Jew, mixed bloods. But I've lived in Italy most of my life, except for some years of living abroad, France, India, South America. But yeah, so I've spent most of my life in Italy, and I would say pretty much I feel at home here. And I always say I'm Latin in my heart, but yeah, then I have this skin that doesn't justify that. But yes, I would say I'm very Tuscan, and this is definitely my mother tongue.
Okay. And maybe we should start from one of your early memories and then go to where you are right now. So could you start from a memory that you have?
Yeah. So what I can say is I was brought up in, as I said earlier, in Tuscany, and my father was a painter, so he chose with my mother to live in the middle of the countryside south of Siena, so in the south of Tuscany. And my memories as a kid are quite fantastic because my parents let me very free. And as a kid, before even schooling, I would walk up 500 meters to our neighbor, Olema, who was like one of my first wise teachers. She would take me to the forest. She would take me foraging. She would take me everywhere. And I just learned, you know, I can recognize any tree, any edible wild herb, any, you know, I know about medicine from the grounds, thanks to her, thanks to just, you know, as a child, when you look and you are there, you learn it. You learn from the earth, no? And this woman was a farmer, but there was so much wisdom, the old wisdom of I know every single mushroom. And yeah, so you know, you learn how to survive in that situation. I learned how to cook, how to bake, how to make bread from sourdough. You know, you learn things by looking. So these memories are incredible.
Start.
And yeah, and my father was a painter, so this as well, you know, it was all the arts and the people that would come and visit us from all over the world was already quite a impact. You know, these two realities playing in me.
Hmm. And what age were you at this time? From this kind of memories, where were you?
Yeah, so apparently at 2 years old, I would already, when my mother couldn't see me, she knew that I was at the neighbors. I'd walked up there on my own, you know, I'd just go and spend the day with her or the afternoon with her. So these are memories around 2, 3, 4 years old, already very small. And then, yeah, also I went to a little school a local little school, and we had horses. So my brother and I would ride to school. And even in the school, we learned so much, because it wasn't a Montessori or Steiner school, as afterwards I developed for others. But, again, it was nature who was the great teacher there, because we would do our studies. We were very few in the school, and then the teacher would just take us out exploring, to see things, to understand things. So again, I was lucky enough to be in nature a lot.
Mm. And were you the only child in the family?
Sorry?
Were you the only child in the family? Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I was the oldest, and I had a younger brother and a younger sister. So we were three of us, yeah.
Okay. And what happened after that? So there is this period where you're learning from the nature, you're very close to the earth element in a sense. What is happening in life next?
Well, what I think was interesting, and again also gave me a lot to then transform my life, was the experience of going to Pune in India, being in the presence of Osho as a child. My grandmother started going there in 76, and then the year later or so, she took my mother and us three there, and then my father joined in another moment, and we went there and lived there for a while. And at one point we were there for a year, so that gave a strong imprint also on my education, because the school was a very free school. You really learned when you wanted to learn. The teachers were there for you, but you asked. So I would say, can you teach me how to play the piano? Or can you read this book to me and tell me all about... So you were learning in that way. And then at one point, my mother decided to go back and to give us more of an education in the various Italian system school. And that was also great. However, the whole experience was incredible, because I remember being about 8 years old, and Osho had given us our number. That's why my name is Pushpa, which means flower. You probably know it's Prem Pushpa, flower of love. And that's a bit your spiritual path in a way. These names are like that. And so for me, it was incredible to live this freedom fully, and be with other children and with these incredible teachers. And then to be able to go to the ashram in the afternoons and do the meditations. And, the parents everyone was taking care of everyone in a way. And the children were super free. And I could go to the meditations. And I remember actually going to the Kundalini meditation and loving it. Even at the age of 8, I would choose to go there. And then we would go to the discourses of Osho. And I can't say I remember exactly what he was saying, but it was great even for a kid to feel the tonalities. The energy was very strong. Even as a kid, I remember this. Then I went back at 19, and then I went back to really see with my eyes of more of an adult, to see what that was all about. And now Osho had just passed away the year before, but the energy was very present, very strong. And what was interesting is in those years, in the 80s and 90s, and even at the end of the 70s, all the best doctors, therapists, researchers were at the ashram, were with Osho, and a lot of work was done. So you really could learn just about everything. And I luckily experienced rebalancing massage, and my grandmother decided to finance this project of mine, and she said, I'm going to give you the money so that you can do this technique and learn. And so at 20, I was learning for 4 months, deeply learning, rebalancing massage and other techniques to help people. And so that was my first big learning, because I really decided not to go to university. I'd done art school, and I decided that, no, I was going to learn in different ways. So yeah, that was a big...
Yeah, before we go into you're a bit more 18-year-old, I have a few questions. This is out of curiosity. I've heard spiritual masters have very high level of energy, right? In a group, when someone like Osho is sitting down, everyone around them feels this energy. And in many ways, I have read somewhere he channels this energy and everyone feels in sync. How would you think about those kind of concepts where, there is this energy in the room present? Or what is those memories you associate with that?
Well, that's the thing. As I told you, I was a child. So as a child, I think it's a very different memory and a different feeling from adults. And that's why I chose to then go back and feel it for myself and understand. But I was curious to understand because I remembered what it was as a child, even lying on my parents' lap and sometimes falling asleep. But it was so positive, so mind-blowing what was happening. It was very, for a child like I was and my siblings, it was just so pleasant, so like having a blanket of stars on your body. It was very magical. It was very, very soft and beautiful to feel this energy for children as well. And, then the discourses, he was talking a lot. So maybe the talking might have been boring for the mind that is very differently developed in a child. But it was really, the word is energy and this vibration. And then there was singing, and the singing, sometimes the children sang as well. But, again, it was this power that many people were experiencing, and we obviously felt it. And the same, I think, goes for negative experiences. The children maybe don't intellectualize it, but they're feeling. And I can tell you as a child, wow, what Osho left was enormous, the strength. And even the few times I came near him, he felt like beauty, just pure beauty, pure. And I can tell you, responding more as an adult, because then I was quite young when I met Amma, the hugging lady.
Yes.
Now he's 100 millions of people. Thing, at 19, I wasn't so interested in all the ragas and the singing and the hours of singing. I found that boring. But when I went to hug her, wow, it was like looking into an ocean and understanding this warmth, this hug. It just was like melting into the ocean. I don't know if I can have other words for it.
Just to explain.
Again, I was not really, I was young adult, so it was probably now would be, still a different situation.
And what was your worldview? Say like you're 18, right? You had all these experiences in Pune, and then you have this family that thinks in a certain way. Then you move to Italy, studied, your high school is done. What was your worldview? When you look at people and things around you, how did you think about those things?
Well, I don't know if it's my character, but or probably the experiences that I had. For me, my world view was always a connection to nature, because I could understand that at any age, I could understand how much nature can give you. You're in a moment of sadness, depression. So nature, always nature. And my grandmother taught me very early on, when I had, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, pain body, she would call it the black wolf, go into the vegetable garden and scream. And, I did that through my life, and it's been so helpful because nature can take it and you can feel so much better. Or many times she told me, go and hug a tree when you're feeling a bit sad or something has happened or too much energy. So, I've been taught this in many traditions, in many meditations later on, from many teachers later. But the first one was my grandmother, and I was just a child, and I was used to doing that. So again, nature can take it. If you're super hyper, if you're sadness, if you have a moment, you go and hug a tree, which is, a nice big tree that can contain this, not a little flimsy tree, unless you're a child. But, this was, so this I would say strongly, so nature, and then also the sensation of life, of a vital life always, because of nature, because of these teachings, because of this inner freedom that I was lucky enough to have as a child. No? And I always expected to be normal for everybody.
Yeah, and before we go to the next question, I would like to add that nature have this ability, just like you're saying, it has the ability to balance energies. And that's why there is a lot of studies where people go naked in the feet, without the shoe or anything like that. They go into the soil and they just stand there, and they have clear research papers on their negative ions getting moved, and more positivity kind of like builds inside them. Since we don't see it, people don't really understand, but this has been like that from the beginning. It's a big system of energy. Now we go to the next question, where you mentioned that you learned a specific kind of massage, right? And how was life after that?
Well, again, I felt in tune with the people in a different way. It wasn't just nature, it was really learning how to be with people, and to have the thing of knowing how to touch people is an incredible gift that made me feel very empowered also. And that gave me, at 20, feeling to be able to do something like that, gave me even more want to learn more. It gave me, I always said to my friends, I met meditation before I ever met drugs, in the sense that I was never one who liked to smoke, not even cigarettes. So, I tried when I was around 20 or so, and I tried to smoke like the other friends in India. They would smoke a chidum, but it just wasn't my thing. I think I was gifted with having mentors like my grandmother and my family who were into meditation, and then really practicing it when I was in India. I did all the Osho meditation, so it didn't interest me, and I understood that you can go so deep and then really have visions, and go and find all those things that can be found with all sorts of medicines. They are all inside us. So whenever then later on I did some experiences, I could really understand them profoundly and make choices because I had done those experiences. For me, drugs was never a recreational thing, never. It was really to honor, even just marijuana was to honor, and you do it in the right moment with the right people, and with a sacrality to it. Or when I did later on tobacco ceremonies, or with the other kind of lineages, and so so this was what it gave me. And also yes, an empowerment, because being so young and having a profession already, because really after 4 months of learning with these incredible teachers, I really could give people massages and make a living already so early.
Okay. Well, again, I would like to add, according to Vedic knowledge, all of universe is inside you, and all of universe is but your mind. Mind is the basic fabric that is creating all of universe. So it's just an amazing thought, ideology, to believe you are everything. You're also inside. It's just that you need such high level of knowledge to accept it. And
not just knowledge, I would say, I agree with you. The knowledge come in the consciousness of the body, because we're told by so many masters, but then one day, boom, it sinks in, and you realize it when you yourself make we make the experience ours, our own.
Yes. So you've been practicing as a massage specialist for a period of time. What happened during that time and after that? The kind of people you met, the kind of way you were thinking, and what was happening next?
Well, actually, to be honest, I opened my own horse business at 21. So my massage was on the side. People would know that I was giving massage, and they would come and get a massage. Even I know some French people who would come riding, and they knew I was giving massages, so they would reserve a massage with me. But otherwise, mainly I was for quite a bunch of years, I was being I had my riding school, so I would take people in nature to ride, and also I would be training horses. So that's how I made my living in the beginning, more so than the massages. And that was, again, incredible, because it comes to your questions. How could I relate with people? What I understood at an early age is all these people that were coming riding, they were like either scared to be on a horse because they'd fallen before, they never done it. You know, this relationship of getting on something which is quite higher than you and not being on your own feet, all the fears come out. So I understood there wasn't just going for a walk that was interesting for them, but it was also really learning to trust, you know, in nature and the horse and themselves and going over their fears. So I noticed how I was kind of being their counselor, no, like their shrink. But it was very interesting. It wasn't just, okay, now we go for a gallop, now we go for a trot. No, it was, or now we cross the river. No, there was a lot more going on. No, so even that was a great school, just having to do it, having to teach people and take people for rides in nature, because it's very different when you teach in a corral, you know, or in a manege. It's very different. There, it's, you know, when you're in contact with nature and with horse and you're not on your feet, you're not a rider, try it and you'll see what I mean one day.
I understand. But I also see, like, since you have this very different set of experience quite early, you were aware about the inner workings of people, right? Because you're 21, 22, generally I have seen young people more thinking externally, like, oh my God, this is happening there, this is happening here. Whereas the internal workings have been really started. But in time, pain or, you know, life events kind of kickstart that thinking like, oh, there is all this, the whole world is inside. But with you, when you explain, I feel like since you had these experiences with energy, with commune kind of system of living, you are aware that other people have minds and they have these thoughts and they are sometimes scared about the horses. So it's quite nice to hear that. What happened with the horse business and what was the natural progression for you after?
So while I had horses, I made sure that in the winter when I was working less, I would put my horses in various places. I had 17 horses, so it was quite a job. And I left for India. Sometimes it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 months. And I would go and train in the Osho commune. I would be doing more and more other things that interest me, like iridology and Tibetan pulsing. I was doing all sorts of studies of therapy. So I went like 7 years to India, where I was learning every year. And when I'd done my, 1, 2, 3 months in the ashram learning, then I would travel. So I got to know India a bit and see other scenes and, you know, understand the people, as you say. And so for me, that was really my growth and my multiversity, instead, as they called it, or the university. And yes, it was a whole journey into getting to know people, how to work with them, and also the interest for community, as you say. That was really the big passage for me. In fact, when I came back the first time from Pune, you know, I had in my heart, I had a big decision. I said, I do know something. I am not in my life going to have a husband, kids, and a little home, perfect lifestyle. You know, nuclear family was not my thing. I am going to create a community. So I'd made this decision at 19. I had it very clear. And it took all these days, and yes, these years of training and you know, going back and being with people and learning a lot of things and getting a lot of input. And then actually later at one point, how did my horse business finish? Actually, I was doing also other things. I did a kind of course that was organized by the region, and it was on how to run a convention or a big event or have run big hotels, all of that. So in a way, it was more of a different world from mine, but it was very useful for me because at the end we were working on a project, each our own. And while some were saying, okay, I'm going to organize this convention for this kind of personality to come, or someone else said, okay, I'm going to run my grandmother's castle or something like that. Mine was a project which clearly talked about a center, which was community run, where people came together like-minded and would host other people and give really lessons on all sorts of, there would be people coming together like therapists or artists or musicians, so that this could be then passed on to next generations or to people who could get healing from this as well. So this was very clear already in my mind. It took a while to make this happen, but when you have a dream as strong as I did, and we can all do that, there's no distinction. When you have it so strong, when it's the right moment, it materializes. Yes. When you're focused, then takes all your learning time, whatever. And in my learning time, at one point, when my horse business finished, because I was doing other things, and also one of my horse got killed. It was a bit of a sad story. I said, okay, now is the moment for me to travel and, find what I want to find. So I went to South America. I traveled quite a lot in Central and South America. I did quite a lot of experiences of volunteering, and I visited incredible power places, and I visited some communities. I was really, really searching for my road. And as a friend said, you're going to go through your desert, because everyone has to do it sometime in their life, to also meet solitude, and at the same time in that solitude really understand a lot of things. So I really did this in that time. And when I came back, it was just the time. I said, okay, now I'm going to do a community, a kind of eco-village, and this is it. And then...
Before we jump into that, I have a few questions. Since you have very nice experiences, like you have been in India for 7 years, and you went to Latin America after that. So what was your, what is your thinking about India as a place? Because I have a lot of people from India watching it as well. How do you think about India?
Oh, for me, India was one of my, as a country, it was one of my grandmasters, because I learned so much. I always went around with several people I met, and there was one friend who used to say, in India, either you go mad or you become enlightened, because especially in those years, it was so crazy, chaotic sometimes, and quite an adventure. But on the other hand, it was so, many people do become enlightened in India, because it's so giving. It's such a country of incredible people who really take life in such a different way, with such a strong spiritual meaning of things, that really, and well, it's so diverse, it's so beautiful. The people are amazing, like I traveled a lot in Rajasthan, and the colors, the places. I mean, I feel like I was in fairyland all the time. It was for the eye, it's like one of the most beautiful countries you can visit and experience. Yeah, and I've traveled in many countries, but yes, India is, wow, it's unique, for sure. It's unique, and sometimes, you as a Westerner, sometimes you go crazy, because you have it's even a great place for lessons, because you have in mind that you have to get somewhere at a certain time, and you have your plan, but plans go differently. And then you learn that it's not a question of time, it's not a question of always thinking that you want something and you're going to get it how you want it. Things come in different ways.
Yes.
And it's very magical. Yeah.
And the things that you're talking about, how I would say as a person listening to it, it's about conscious living. Like most people doesn't really understand that being a nuclear family or being a society, it's all like frameworks of thinking. How do we stay together as a group, right? And what you explained was kind of how do you consciously live in a place where you contribute to the young. And I feel like as an Indian person, there is a lot of different kind of thinking in India. Like when I moved to West, it's very standardized in a sense. Whereas in India, it's very diverse communities, cultures. So if people could come to an idea, for example, like a commune with Osho, um, a whole different setup where people contribute from the best of what they could do, um, without expecting a different kind of reward. But, oh, I am an engineer, I need to be rewarded in a certain way. Instead, like everyone kind of works as much as they could, and care about the youth, care about the young, teach them all the knowledge they have. So it's a wonderful idea. Before we go a bit more forward, I would also like to touch the Latin America part of your life. What did you learn from there? It's also like a spiritual powerhouse. What did you learn from there?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I have to say, for example, I went first to Mexico and I never missed home in Mexico. So, you know, if for those who believe in reincarnation, I wonder if I had a Latin American or Central American reincarnation, because, you know, in some countries you feel home. Doesn't matter where it is. And there I felt home. I never once missed Italy. The food, the people, even there, the colors, so warm, so different, so kind. You know, maybe that was my experience. Maybe it's not for everybody like that, but I always received a lot of kindness. And yeah, there was something feeling. I felt very at home. Not that in India or in Asia in general, I didn't. You know, I loved the food. The people were fun, and as I say, the experience were incredible. But especially in Mexico, it's like even there the time was different. You know, even the way they talk, they tell you "ahorita vengo." You know, usually it's ahora, and then they have also "ahoritita," which could be between now and 3 days. You know, it's the time is in a different way there as well, and. Yeah, it was just, again, one more great experience. And spicy food, like in India, which I adore, even if it's very different. And, yeah, I visited a lot of sites, obviously, and I loved the Mayan sites and even there, the nature. You know, I have always this connection with nature in all the countries that I go. It's just, it always, you know, yeah, it's mind-blowing.
And I think like lands have its own energy. Sometimes you kind of sync with it. That, like, you know, when you went to Mexico, your innate energy kind of matches with the land. Then you feel home. You're like, and it could be like you said, reincarnation over time, many different reasons. But that's a beautiful feeling to feel like home, even though you are moving. You are in a whole different place in a way. What age were you at, and when did you come back to Italy after?
So I was about, I actually started from the States. I was working there and making money with massages, with all sorts of things I did. I was a chef as well, and I was a babysitter. I did lots of things. I was about 25 when I was 24, 25. And those years I traveled a lot from the States to Mexico, South America. I did come back during the summer for a few weeks. At one point, I don't remember when, in Italy, but otherwise, until I was 28, I was pretty much
traveling.
So yeah, 3-4 years almost. And yep, so.
Okay, then let's go to like when you were around 30. What is happening in life? How is the thinking, the worldview? How are you doing?
Well, in 30 was very exciting because I'd had my child when I was 29, my first daughter. And actually I went back to Mexico when she was 1 with 3 friends of mine traveling also. And then when I came back, that's when our adventure was starting. This eco village that I was talking to you about, because when I came back at 28, 29, that's when I started looking for the right location. My mother and a dear friend of hers and his wife, they said, let's do it. Let's do this project together. So we started actually in my mother's house in the countryside in Montecino, and then from there, we started looking for a location. It took 2-3 years before we found a couple of years, 1 year and a half, 2 years. We actually found various places several times. We almost got the place, but then there was always something that happened that didn't make it happen. And so then it was my godmother who talked to a friend of hers, a very wealthy friend of hers, who had come to visit us with his children, the children we loved very much. So one of them in particular, the older one, would spend the summers with us, and we got on. And so they liked the idea to do a project with us. And in fact, it was them who then bought this much bigger property that we got, which was very big because it was 300
Where was this exactly? What does you know? Where is it in Italy?
Near here where we live, Volterra. Okay. And yes, and I was 29, 30 when we moved to this place. So it was a big beginning of a new start. And we started with several friends who came together, and we started this eco-village and this project to renovate this place, to start receiving guests. Then we had the first thought of doing a Montessori school. So very early we started a Montessori. It was a kindergarten to start with. And then the years after, we did a creche and an elementary and a middle school. So this was the biggest homeschooling in Italy, together with Damanhur, which is a very big community in Italy. We were the biggest and the example for many, many homeschoolings who then came along, because in Italy it was allowed to homeschool your children. Yeah, and so we did it. We actually had teachers, though. So we were homeschooling as parents. We were all responsible, and some of the parents would participate in the teaching. But we actually hired teachers, Montessori instructed teachers, to do this. And for many years, it was really purely Montessori with the Montessori materials. And we had also Montessori supervisors. And then we introduced some other supervisors that were bringing more the Steiner way in Waldorf. So we liked that they brought in other qualities. So we opened up.
Could I interrupt you and ask a few, because since I'm not familiar. So what do you mean by Montessori and Waldorf? I kind of understand Waldorf, but it would be nice if you explain as we go so people understand.
Yeah. So Maria Montessori was Italian and Rudolf Steiner was German. They lived more or less in the same times. Actually, I think Maria Montessori probably was born first. Don't remember now her date of birth, but I think late 1800s, and she was a doctor. And then she decided that education was very important, because she studied a lot of she said that it has to start from the children. She was really, like, in a way, one of the first neuroscientists, if you want, because she really saw the behaviors of children and how it was important to really have the children be independent as from very little, because they always do things from imitation. So she made sure all the materials for the children were very much like the ones that we use, only small. So there was, instead of a big room, a little 3-year-old trying to imitate his mother, sweeping with a big broom, he had a little broom or a little shovel, so he could do what his father was doing, but with a little shovel. No, later on, you two probably grew up with little tools, because then it was normal. No, we have little tools. Nowadays, they do little tools like the grown-up tools, but before it wasn't. And she was the first one who constructed them, and not to play, because she said, you have to take the children very seriously. They do things for imitation. So she was really in the observation of children and saying that they learned on their own. Her motto was, help me to do it alone. So she taught teachers to teach children only when it was their moment. So what they would do is they would observe the children, and when they saw that the child was ready to learn something, they produced the material or came out with the materials for that age, for that child. And it was amazing. She always demonstrated how literally in 6 months, a child could learn 4 years of what now is taught in 4 years. Because when they're ready, you bring in the teachings that they need. If a child is into tractors and and tractors and tractors and tractors, then you do material. You teach them how to read and write with tractors or other things, what interests them, what they want, not just our method of schooling, which is our way, which is more than 100 years old. Now we have new phones, new technology, new this, new that, but the school is always the same, pretty much. You go to school, this is the way, you have to learn like a parrot. It's very rare that, we think we're inventing hot water, but, that's the whole problem of education. We think that we have to put in in the brain, and earlier, like at 4 and 5, we're already teaching them to read and write. Aren't we proud of our children who are reading at 5? But, we're damaging because their brain and the other organs are not formed. So that's where Rudolf Steiner, for example, he said, do not teach a child unless his certain teeth have developed. And when a child can touch their ear like that, which usually happens around 7, but, could happen at 6, could happen earlier, could happen later. Then bring in the teaching. Before that, let them be in their fantasy world because their organs are developing. So if you teach a child too early, what's going to happen is they will have their problems later on in various organs, or even later on in the brain. They won't have incarnated well. So then we say, oh, he's dyslexic. Oh, he's he's got all sorts of things. Oh, attention disorder. And then, oh, my son is completely autistic. Now, one of our favorite words is autism, no? But how about maybe you over-taught him too early? There's so many interesting things to see about that. It's so easy nowadays how we categorize. And then, you present yourself and you say, hey, I'm this name and this, and I'm autistic and I'm dyslexic. Then you become that even more so, no? So
very, very, very interesting. I also feel like most people are very anxious and sad, and the people think like it's because life happens in a way, but it's not completely true. It's also a broken schooling that leads to depression and anxiety, because you're put in a place where you don't want to be. You're an engineer who have no interest in engineering, or you are like, you end up in professions that you are not meant to be ending up at. Let's move towards that. You guys were one of the biggest homeschooling organization in Italy at a point of time. What was happening after that? And you had a lot of land and you were building this community. So what is the next thing happening in life?
Yeah, so we lived there for 17 years. It was an incredible experience because all our guests who came, we had even very wealthy, famous people who came. And what they loved of this place, they always said to us, this is not the typical 5-star hotel, because there was an incredible 1800 villa, which was restored. We followed the works, but the owners really put it all in to do the most beautiful thing. And they loved this bohemian air that we were bringing. They always said that's what they liked. And it was run not by people, like in many of these places, they put on a smile in the morning, they turn it off at 5, or when they stop at midnight, whatever, and that's it. We were there with our heart. So, we treated our guests like if we would treat our own family. So the guests really loved that. And a lot of the guests who came there, that's what they loved the most. That, they had this thing of being at home and being with friends rather than just being treated in another 5-star hotel. So we had our own separate restaurant, place where we would eat. And a lot of the guests would ask to eat with us. Or we had the pizza night, which was community meets the guest. And they loved that. We were really being there with our hearts. So that was a very special experience for both the guests and both for us.
I have a question for you. Can you define eco-village? What is the ideology behind it? What is the thinking behind calling it eco-village?
Well, eco-village, I can give you the definition in Italy because probably be called differently somewhere else. An eco-village, you have to be at least 5 adults who are not family connected, who are working on a piece of land together and a property, and everything is done in the name of ecology, as it says, eco-village. So it's a village that, so you would be caring of the land, then, you may be adopting biodynamics rather than permaculture or other natural ways of conducting the land. But as much as possible, you make your food. And then if you don't make your food, you anyway buy from as much as possible, local, so kilometer zero, as much as possible, local farmers, and enhancing the local, helping out the local communities or local farmers to buy good produce from what's local rather than thousands of kilometers away. And everything, as much as possible, is organic always. And you're really trying to not damage, leave a very light,
understand,
light walk, in the sense that using also ecological soaps and doing your best to preserve this nature around us. So I would say that's mostly the definition. Then, you can be doing social work or all kind of things, but you always have at heart nature and the people.
Understood. So it's like nature first, conscious, healthy living, which is absolutely wonderful. And you have all these villas. Were people coming and leaving there throughout the year, or was it like a vacation spot where they come in and go? How was that working? Because it's a lot of homes at a point of time.
So that's an interesting question, because we had people coming and going. Some people really came for a year and experience. Some people came and lived there quite a bunch of years with us until they had other projects going, or they came to us and stayed till the end. Some of the teachers came to live with us. Others were coming from outside. Some of the people working with us, a lot of the people actually were part of the community. Other came. We had also staff, especially for the summer, coming from outside, because the winter was more reduced, although we were always open because we were not always just hosting, but we also had projects. We had a lot of land, so we were taking care of the land. We were producing our own wheats and we had a mill. We had our own cereals, all sorts of things, lentils, chickpeas. We were doing a lot of different things. And then, as I told you, we had the mill, so we did our own pasta, we did our own breads, we did a lot of things. And then we had our own herbal shop. So even there, we learned a lot from various herbal people, magicians, and made our own produce. And we had an enormous vegetable garden, biodynamic vegetable garden with lots of old varieties. We had a young man who was a seed saver. So we had all sorts of incredible vegetables that were never seen before in Europe in those days. And it was a very, it was a school in itself, very self-sustaining. And then we didn't have cows, for example, but there was a biodynamic farm next door where we bought all our produce, dairy, like milk, and we made our own yogurt. And then we would buy cheeses, or sometimes we teach people how to make cheese. That's the other thing. We taught people how to make bread and all sorts of things. We were teaching what we knew, what we learned. We would teach others. And we had a artist residency. We had we call it the yoga house, where we had people coming doing yoga or artist residencies, lots of fun projects like that. And we also hosted, I was a wedding planner for lots of the weddings. We had about 10 weddings a year. Some would come with their own wedding planner, and some I would be doing the wedding planning for them. So yes, and other events, birthdays and events like that. So it was very interesting. So
I have to ask you, like, what is the stress level in a community like that? What is the stressful things that could possibly happen?
Yeah, that's a good question as well, because of course when you are living with people, we always said ego village, not just eco village, because of course, when you're living on your own, you already have your monkey mind saying, no, no, don't do that. You're going to get hurt, or no, that's, oh, how boring. You always have your own blocks. Then when you have a partner, then you're not in two, you're at least in four in there. No. So, that's already a little community starting with all the beauty of it, but also the discussions. And when there's a bigger community, then of course there are difficulties. And I have to say that compared to other communities, we lasted quite a while, because 17 years is a long time. And we did a lot of work on ourselves, as some of us as individuals, not everybody, which would have been, of course, I think very helpful. But we, as a group, we had a coach. At one point, we had someone else come and work with us, a kind of counselor. We did a lot of family constellations. So even that was growing together was fundamental. Even as a school, we had discussions with the parents, and we worked a lot. We had always someone coming from the Montessori world, or from the art therapy, or Steiner, to really work with us, and a doctor that would follow us and tell us, really we were doing courses together to be better parents for our children and for the school. So it was an incredible learning, 17 years of giving, but also learning. So you get and you give, and you give and you get. It's like that.
And what happened after the 17 years? What was the next step in your life?
So the next step was, this relationship with the owners finished, because for them, they were, the owner, he also had an illness for a while. So it was getting all for him too much. We also had some stress level with some of our people in the eco village who just, they were beautiful people, but they didn't want to put the same work that some of us were putting. So, things happen like that. Obviously, we were all quite young, and then it got too much even for the owners. So everybody sort of went their way. And my husband and I actually, for a while, we started building a new project. And it was a project on a new idea of being together with other people, but really dedicating it to education, because there's a time that always you give back also what you have learned. So it took us 2-3 years, and in the meantime, my husband was also building straw bale houses, which is one of his expertise, and I was also actually doing a school of coaching while finishing my counseling school. In the meantime, in these years, I did that as well, and doing a lot of massages as well. That was one way of living, and being a chef, and for various groups that called me, that knew that I was also a chef in the years. So we were just doing things, and in the meantime, building the new, and again, looking for the right place. And then the right place came, actually, and we were also trying to build a foundation, because the foundation is always a great place where to start, because it belongs, the foundation belongs to the property, and it's not mine, yours, doesn't create that. And it's really a place of giving, and so we thought this time it's time to do a foundation, not a cooperative, not a community, and we're all therein for the education. So then actually we were looking for various places, and then it was this incredible friend of ours who had in time had their own school based on peace, beautiful project that they ran for over 10 years in Basel, and partly here in Tuscany, in this place where we are now. And then they decided to pass it on to us, because they had stopped this activity, and they decided to pass it on to us. So it was an incredible opportunity, an incredible gift. And so this is how it all started, and this talking about 2019. And so this is when it all started materializing here.
Could you explain a little bit about the whole scale of things, so people could imagine in Tuscany, in beautiful Tuscany? How does it look?
Yes. It is in Tuscany, in the beautiful Tuscan hills. Unfortunately, now you just see my books because I'm afraid to lose the connection. Otherwise, I'm here looking now and then at the hill while I talk, because, you know, here you have this connection with nature. So, yeah, when I'm not looking at you, forgive me, but, you know, it's always breathtaking, although I'm here for years. And now this light is very beautiful when there's the sun set on the hills. And yes, so we are very close to Volterra. It's only like about 15 minutes away from Volterra, and we are 50 minutes from the airport of Pisa, just to understand the logistics of Pisa. And then we're like 1 hour and 20 minutes from Florence, and about an hour or so from Siena. So we're pretty in this
logistically.
pretty, and 3 hours from Rome, which is in Lazio, which is further down, and 4 hours from Milan. So we're really very much in the center of Tuscany. And the countryside is a very beautiful one. It's olive trees and hills and forest and vineyards. That's the typical countryside, yes. And the estate is not a big one. In this case, it's only about 2.5 hectares. And that's about what, 5 acres, I think.
5 acres. It's still big, you know.
Yeah, well, compared to a garden, yes. And we have a little vineyard, and we have an olive grove. So we're producing sometimes wine, sometimes grapefruit. No, I mean grape juice, which we use. We made all sort of fermented drinks like kombucha and kefir, which we, of course, teach everybody because they're so good for you. They're wonderful drink to, you know, they're the best bacteria for your guts and for your system. So we're learning and teaching all these things. And then we make, of course, our olive oil, because olive oil, as you know, is like gold. I mean, it's quite a Zen operation to pick olives. We also do it sometimes part of the school, because it's when the school is running. And then we have a nice big vegetable garden, which sustains us for most of the summer and part of the winter as well. And so that's it. And then we have this big farmhouse where we also have what used to be the church. They called it our previous owners, because they did for their students, they did a lot of silent meditation, which was very beautiful and healing. And also they did amazing chants, not Gregorian, liturgic chants. So they were singing these angelic chants. So we call it now the temple to make it more encompassing for everybody. But that's where most of the activities happen. We did a nice, beautiful, my husband put a beautiful bamboo floor. So a lot of the work gets done there. And then we have another great building, which is the art room. So there we do all sorts of herbal workshops, making your own basket workshops, all the creams, some of the cooking experiences, all the a lot of the herbal workshops. And there is a world full of lots of different things that we can do. Art projects and art workshops we do there as well. And and also the students can use that space when they want. We do theater, we do other things as well sometimes there. And then we have this, the farmhouse is divided in all sorts of different rooms and public areas. So where the students or guests, because we have a period where we have school happening, and another period where people come with their own groups. So yoga groups, art groups, we have tarot, all sorts of different, now soon we have a water shatsu group coming. So different groups come and do different things, breath work, but like-minded, you know, always work that we also,
people who wants to really learn about what else is there from the typical society comes there.
Exactly.
And I would like to ask like a few things. How does it feel like, or first question is that how many people could come in and learn from there at a point of time? And the second is that how does that work? You know, like, is it like a few months? Do they stay like that? Is it like a year? Or is it, how do people do it?
So we've had groups up to 40 people. Like we have this incredible teacher called Marianne Costa, who is like she's written lots of books on tarot, and she's like, I think, probably one of the best in the world working with tarot. And she comes with big groups, like 30 plus people. So, there could be up to 40 people coming here. But for the school, we usually tend to have 20 to 25 students max, because we do the school in the autumn now from September to November, December. It depends. The last year was till December. Now this year it's starting earlier, so it's till half November. So it's nice for the students to be, two in a room when possible. Sometimes there's weeks, because students can come for the whole program, which is an 11-week program, starting on the 2nd of September this year, or they can come for a week. They see they can't because they're working or they're studying or whatever, but there's something they really want to learn, so they can come for a week or a month or 2 weeks. A lot of students come for a week and then they say, oh, wow, I want to learn about this, so I'm coming they come another week. Or they stay on. We've had several students say, look, this is too amazing, I want to stay on. And it's very, it's strong, it's transformative, it's a life-changing experience for all sorts of people. So,
and they're very, very hands-on. I would say, like plucking things and making something out of it, go straight to the nature. It's very hands-on. So people could really be more present. And less distraction. It's a very specific kind of place. I would also like to ask, please.
Yeah, I would say I can tell you just in a nutshell what it is, what the Transmission School is. It's an international progressive school and venue, as I said, for people of all ages. We always say from 18 to 180, because lots of lineages teach us that we can live to any age we really want. And we know from the past that there are many civilizations that lived longer than just our 70, 80, 90 that we're used to believing. And this is really beyond science, spirituality and philosophy, because we share really all of that and practical wisdom, and we provide really a space for an integrated life in resonance with Earth. So this is a bit the Transmission School in a nutshell.
Okay. And I would also like to ask you, how, if someone wants to come and stay for a week, how should they think about it? What would be the expense, if I could ask you, or how, what would be a good season for them to come to? Could you give us a few points?
Yeah. So let's start from the expense. So 1 week, if you come just for a week, it costs 1,500, and that includes the room and board. And I say room and board, but one should say the most incredible meals. If you check out our Instagram, one of the testimonials also, the food, the food. It's because we care a lot. We like to eat. We love good food. We cook not only Tuscan and Italian, but very international food, because, our chefs are international. I myself sometimes am the chef. And we bring in all our knowledge from, I've always cooked, Mexican. I've learned wherever I went to school in the various countries. So obviously Indian cuisine and Thai and Japanese and you name it. We love cuisines, Greek cuisine and all sorts of cuisines we love. So they experience this, and they have the most incredible breakfasts and snacks and things. And so, that's not just room and board. And then it seems like it's all on food. It's not all on food, but it's a big part of it. And as I said, it's all organic. It's beautiful produce and an amazing experience, the food in itself. And then apart from that, the thing is, the teachings are these incredible masters and teachers who we have worked with in years or they have come here with their groups, and we really have selected, as I always say, they're not teachers, they're masters, because they're really bringing something incredible. And they just also doing 1 week, already people go away changed. Then, of course, if they can do more time or the whole program, everyone who's done it has completely changed their life. Even if they go back and do the same job, their quality, their empowerment, their needs are changed completely, and they get respected, and they, it completely changes. And for many of them, they go back and then do something completely different in their life. Many have traveled and really found themselves in the traveling and done new, completely different experiences and jobs. Others have done new communities even together, because what happens is they really bond, the students, and they create a tribe. It's not just the teachings that are amazing and the integration of all of this, and what happens is
like-minded people come together.
To live together, because as Osho, but many teachers always said, when you think you're enlightened up in a cave in the Himalayas, then go back to your family or go back to the marketplace and see if you're enlightened. Because how you get enlightened in community is far beyond any expectation, no? Because you really learn how to be with other people. You learn through the mirroring. You get support, through your travels. It's not easy when you journey into spirituality and into yourself. And to have a group that supports your growth is, it's a quantum leap. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
This is a visionary education, because it's really all about, as I was saying a bit earlier, like we did in our school, it's not about pushing in information. It's not about that. It's more like getting out what they have. The Latin word exducere, education, means to bring out. And this is what we're doing with these students. We're giving them incredible opportunities. And we always say, don't believe what we're saying, experience it. And they're experiencing it on their own bodies, on their own, what they're doing every day, the living together, the getting these incredible teachings that you just can't get in other places. Some of us are lucky and find some incredible teachers, and maybe can do a weekend or a kind of school, but to do an 11 in-depth program, there is not one like that in the whole of Europe. I don't know, I can't say in the whole of the world, maybe yes, but it's a unique experience.
Yeah, and also like you mentioned, this knowledge is rare. You're studying straight from the master. You're not like reading online. You're not studying from YouTube. It's a very specific kind of knowledge that is just like the name. It's a transmission of knowledge from the masters to who's seeking for that knowledge.
Yes, and nature, because that was our big choice. We could have been in a town, would have been much easier, many things, like our friends had done their school in Basel. But the fact that we are in nature and that we're not online, then it can all really happen, You just, it's really creating a new kind of life, a natural living based on soul relationships, on self-healing, and evolution. And you're doing this really at a speed that is never seen before. Then you become yourself a change maker, because then you want to go and give it to others. You want to change something starting from you. And when you change the world. So these people that have done this school, they're all there changing the world, It's really, and we always say we have done something called the 8 pillars. And we say, if you're willing to learn and serve Mother Earth, Pachamama, Mother Gaia, then this school is for you. If you're free to think outside belief systems, then the school is for you. If you're aware that there's something more than this reality, then the school is for you. And if you're connected to your own energy, and you really long to hear the heartbeat of Earth, of the planet, then the school is for you. And if you want to inquire what is real and what is false, this school is for you. And if you're resilient and you want to act consciously, this is totally the school for you. And also, if you're ready to bring like your innate talent and activate your own pilot of life, this is the school for you. Finally, if you're very open to learn and to what it means to live and to share with others, this is the school for you.
It's a beautiful, I would say, personally, I really like it. I think it's a very beautiful concept to, like teach people that don't be super stressed about this life. There is so much other things. Go learn.
Absolutely. And the program is called Freedom to Create, because that's the title. And maybe what I didn't tell you is that we go through the 5 bodies. So we start with a physical week, then we do an emotional week, then we do a mental week, then we have the spiritual week, and then we have the astral week. And then we have a coaching week to assemble this and work on it. And then we do the whole program again, but go deeper and deeper with different teachers. Every time different teachers who are bringing, even this I didn't mention, we have, for example, the first week will be there with this incredible chef who's a raw food chef forever. He's done, he healed himself of a serious illness and he's amazing. He's opened restaurants everywhere in the world and, he's amazing. So he's going to bring natural cheeses done with nuts and fermentations and this kind. Then the emotional week, we have 5 rhythm with this master of 5 rhythms who comes from Poland, who, runs workshops with 120 people. She's phenomenal. And then, and every week they'll also have other things going on, like an art class or working with herbs, self-healing, all these things. They do a lot of counseling, coaching, individual sessions, and slowly they get everything. They have this yoga week with Ayurvedic doctor in the afternoons. They have family constellation. They work with Feng Shui, so it's not just you, but it's also your body, how you treat your body, but also, how you heal your space. And you're learning more and more and more. Every day they start with Qigong or yoga in the morning. They learn about nature, so they will work in nature and learn a lot of things, even through the garden, about food, about so many different things, transpersonal work, and there's other kinds of work. So really, if anyone is interested, they should look at the program. I invited you to come and do a week. You should find out for yourself. It's always best to experience these things. But then they also get so much that they give something back to the world. So last year they did a dance video, a 19-year-old choreographer, amazing. They did something, go and see it if you haven't seen it. It's in our website. It's called Elementally Connected. It's also in YouTube, and it's like professionally done. And this was done with them, by them, while they were doing all their 14 weeks of learning and, going very deep. So every year they bring up a project that they want to give back to the world. So
since we're I had so many questions for you, but since the time is ending, I would like to ask you one final question. What is the future, according to you? For the school, for yourself, what would you envision in the future?
Okay, so very briefly, because I remembered I answered you to how much it costs for 1 week. If the whole program costs 10,000, that means that they're paying about 900 per week instead of 1,500. So obviously for the kind of teachers and teachings that they get is amazing, because some of these teachers, you go and do their courses and they cost just a teaching 3,000 or more. So this is a big gift if you do the whole program. And so I'm saying this because the future is not just a bigger project. We're looking already for a place which has more land, and so that really can become a bigger project. And instead of inviting just 20, 25 students, we would have then 50, 60 students. And that would also lead to, anyway, the idea is slowly to finding a way of also, it's not a question of reducing prices, because the value that you give yourself is then the value that you bring in the life, but to changing this, because we are still in a system based of money. So we want to find a different way slowly. You know, who knows? We go into gratuity, we go into something different. Now this is to sustain the project, to pay our teachers who are coming from the world. You know, we have one from Canada, one from the States, one from Germany, one from, you know, we're paying them because they're amazing teachers, and you know, it's their value and the values that the students need to give them to themselves to then become, as we say, not multimillionaires, but plenty millionaires. So yeah, total prosperity and abundance. But yeah, we're also change makers. So we're changing the system, and let's see how we're going to create a world with not just money. Money is just an energy. So we have to
different form, another form of
also go into something else. So this is
as long as the intention is at the place, the money as an energy flows and make it happen. And that's my
and this, I just want to tell you that is important, because we help lots of students with we do our own crowdfunding. Well, not crowdfunding. We do fundraising for some students who cannot afford the whole. We've done it several times. We've helped students, they only pay half. But then what's amazing is they empower themselves by doing their own crowdfunding, or, you know, even finding a solution, creative solution of how to pay us in installments or other ways. So we are always also in helping students realize their dreams, you know, and really empower themselves just even before the school starts.
Yes. For anyone who's thinking about where to find Pushpa and the organization, I would put links below. So please find her and support to what she's up to. And we are coming to the end. Thank you for spending time, Pushpa. I would like to talk to you for 5 minutes after the podcast, but now I'm closing the podcast.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody.